The sun beat down on Eliza's back like a blacksmith's hammer. Sand, fine as powdered glass, swirled around her ankles with every gust of wind. 14 years old and utterly alone. Her uncle, Silas, a man whose smile never reached his cold, gray eyes, had left her with a canteen half full of lukewarm water, a threadbare blanket, and a curt, "You're no good to me, girl." The wagon had disappeared over the horizon hours ago, leaving her stranded in a landscape of red rock and thorny scrub. Lizards darted amongst the rocks, the only other signs of life in this desolate place. Fear, cold and sharp, clawed at her throat. She wasn't sure which was worse: the burning sun, the gnawing hunger already twisting her stomach, or the knowledge that Silas wanted her gone. She remembered his words, spat out like venom. Worthless, just like your mother. Eliza clenched her fists. She wouldn't be worthless. She would survive. She scanned the horizon, desperate for any sign of water, any hint of shelter. The air shimmered with heat, distorting the landscape. She took a small sip from the canteen, trying to make it last. Silas had said the Apache roamed these lands, fierce warriors who took no prisoners. Eliza had always been told to fear them, to see them as savages. But right now, even the Apache seemed less frightening than the slow, agonizing death of thirst and starvation. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Eliza stumbled upon a small, rocky overhang. It offered little protection, but it was better than nothing. She huddled beneath the blanket, shivering despite the lingering heat. The desert air grew cold quickly, biting at her exposed skin. She closed her eyes, trying to block out the fear and the loneliness. Images of her mother, a kind, gentle woman who had died when Eliza was just a child, flickered in her mind. Her mother had always told her stories of strong women, women who faced hardship with courage and determination. Eliza clung to those stories, drawing strength from them. She would be strong, like her mother. She would survive. She had to. But as darkness enveloped the desert and the howls of coyotes echoed in the distance, doubt crept in. Maybe Silas was right. Maybe she was worthless. Maybe she was destined to die alone in this desolate place. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the dust and grime. She was so tired, so scared, so utterly alone. She didn't know how much longer she could last. The first rays of sunlight were a painful assault on Eliza's eyes. She woke with a start, her body stiff and aching. The small overhang had offered little protection from the cold night air, and she was shivering despite the rising sun. The canteen was almost empty. She rationed the last few drops, swishing them around her mouth before swallowing. The desert stretched before her, an endless expanse of red rock and scrub. She had to find water. She had to find food. She had to survive. Eliza began to walk, following a dry creek bed in the hope that it would lead her to some source of water. The sun climbed higher, and the heat intensified. Her throat felt like sandpaper, and her head throbbed. She stumbled, her legs weak and shaky. She spotted a small, scraggly bush with a few withered berries. She hesitated, remembering Silas's warnings about poisonous plants. But her hunger was too strong to ignore. She picked a berry and cautiously nibbled it. It tasted bitter, but it didn't seem to be immediately harmful. She ate a few more, hoping they would provide some energy. As she walked, she kept a watchful eye on the horizon, scanning for any sign of life. She saw buzzards circling overhead, their dark shapes a grim reminder of her own mortality. She tried to ignore them, focusing on putting one foot in front of the other. Later that day, she spotted a rabbit darting across the creek bed. Her stomach growled at the sight of it. If she only had a weapon, she could catch it and have a meal. But all she had was the threadbare blanket and the empty canteen. She continued to walk, her hope dwindling with each passing hour. The sun was beginning to set again, casting long shadows across the desert. She was exhausted, dehydrated, and despairing. She collapsed beneath a large rock, too weak to go any further. As darkness fell, she heard the distant howl of a coyote. The sound sent a shiver down her spine. She huddled beneath the blanket, trying to stay warm. She closed her eyes, praying for a miracle. She didn't know how much longer she could last. The desert was a cruel and unforgiving place, and Eliza was beginning to fear that it would claim her life. The stories of strong women seemed distant now, impossible to emulate. She was just a girl, alone and lost in a vast wilderness. Eliza drifted into a fitful sleep, plagued by nightmares of endless deserts and cruel, laughing faces. She awoke to a strange stillness in the air. The wind had died down, and the oppressive heat had lifted. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, rolling in like angry giants. A low rumble echoed across the plains. Thunder. A storm was coming. Eliza struggled to her feet, her body weak and shaky. She looked around, desperate for shelter. The large rock offered some protection, but it wouldn't be enough to withstand a full-blown desert storm. She needed to find something better, and fast. The first drops of rain began to fall, large and heavy. They splattered on the parched earth, turning the dust to mud. Eliza shivered, the sudden coolness a shock to her system. The wind picked up, whipping around her, carrying sand and stinging her skin. She stumbled towards a narrow canyon, hoping to find some refuge within its walls. The rain intensified, turning into a torrential downpour. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the landscape in brief, blinding bursts. Thunder crashed, deafening her. The canyon offered some protection from the wind, but the rain was relentless. Eliza huddled against the rock wall, soaked to the bone and shivering uncontrollably. The creek bed, which had been dry just hours before, was now a raging torrent of muddy water. She watched in horror as the water level rose, threatening to engulf her. She scrambled higher, finding a small ledge just above the waterline. She clung to the rock face, her fingers numb with cold. The storm raged for hours, a furious display of nature's power. Eliza felt utterly helpless, at the mercy of the elements. She closed her eyes, praying for it to end. Just when she thought she couldn't take it anymore, the rain began to ease. The thunder faded into the distance, and the lightning became less frequent. Slowly, the storm subsided, leaving behind a world transformed. The air was clean and fresh, and the desert was washed clean. The sun peeked through the clouds, casting a golden glow on the landscape. Eliza, battered and bruised, but alive, cautiously climbed down from the ledge. As she emerged from the canyon, she saw him, a figure standing silhouetted against the rising sun. He was tall and lean, with long, dark hair. He wore buckskin clothing and carried a bow and arrows. He was Apache. Eliza froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Silas's warnings echoed in her mind. They're savages. They'll kill you without a second thought. But as she looked into the stranger's eyes, she saw something unexpected: kindness. He stepped forward, offering her a piece of dried meat. "Nako," he said, his voice soft and gentle. "You hungry?" Eliza stared at Nako, her mind racing. He was Apache, the very people she had been taught to fear. But his eyes held no malice, only concern. He held out the dried meat again, and Eliza, driven by hunger, hesitantly took it. It tasted salty and smoky, and it was the best thing she had ever eaten. She devoured it quickly, her stomach finally feeling less empty. Nako watched her, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he gestured for her to follow him. Eliza hesitated. Should she trust him? Silas's words still rang in her ears, but she had no other choice. She was too weak to survive on her own. She followed Nako, her bare feet sinking into the muddy ground. He led her to a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. The waterfall cascaded down the rocks, creating a curtain of water that shimmered in the sunlight. Inside the cave, a small fire burned, casting a warm glow on the walls. Nako gestured for her to sit by the fire. Eliza gratefully accepted, her body still shivering from the storm. He offered her a blanket, softer and warmer than the one Silas had given her. As she sat by the fire, wrapped in the blanket, Eliza began to relax. She watched Nako as he tended to the fire, his movements graceful and efficient. He didn't speak, but his presence was comforting. She noticed a small pot simmering over the fire. The aroma was savory and inviting. Nako saw her looking and smiled slightly. "Stew," he said. "Rabbit and beans." Eliza's stomach rumbled. She hadn't eaten a proper meal in days. Nako ladled some stew into a wooden bowl and handed it to her. Eliza took a spoonful and savored the taste. It was delicious. As she ate, she studied Nako. He was younger than she had initially thought, maybe only a few years older. His face was weathered and lined, but his eyes were bright and intelligent. He was nothing like the savage warrior she had imagined. After she finished eating, Nako pointed to a pile of furs in the corner of the cave. "Sleep," he said. "You rest." Eliza was exhausted. She crawled into the pile of furs and closed her eyes. She felt safe and warm, something she hadn't felt in a long time. As she drifted off to sleep, she wondered why Nako was helping her. What did he want from her? But she was too tired to worry about it. For now, she was grateful for his kindness. She was alive, and she had food, shelter, and warmth. That was all that mattered. Eliza woke to the sound of birdsong. Sunlight streamed into the cave, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. She stretched, her muscles less stiff than they had been the day before. The furs were surprisingly comfortable. Nako was gone. The fire had been carefully banked, and a small water skin sat beside her. Eliza drank deeply, the cool water soothing her parched throat. She felt stronger, more alert. She emerged from the cave, blinking in the bright sunlight. The waterfall sparkled, and the air was filled with the sound of rushing water. She looked around, searching for Nako. He appeared a moment later, walking out of the trees. He carried a freshly killed rabbit, its fur still damp. He smiled at Eliza, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. "Good morning," he said, his English surprisingly good. "You sleep well?" Eliza nodded. "Yes, thank you," she said. "For everything." Nako shrugged. "You needed help," he said. "We help those in need." He set about preparing the rabbit for cooking, his movements quick and efficient. Eliza watched him, fascinated. She had never seen anyone skin and clean an animal before. "Where are you going?" Nako asked, breaking the silence. Eliza hesitated. "I don't know," she said. "My uncle. He left me." Nako frowned. "Left you?" "In the desert." Eliza nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She told him about Silas, about his cruelty, and about his accusations that she was worthless. Nako listened patiently, his expression growing darker with each word. When she finished, he was silent for a moment. "He is a bad man," Nako said finally. "You are not worthless. Everyone has worth." Eliza looked at him, surprised by his words. She had never heard anyone say anything like that before. "What will you do now?" Nako asked. Eliza shrugged. "I don't know," she said. "I have nowhere to go." Nako thought for a moment. "You can come with me," he said. "To my village. You can stay with my people." Eliza stared at him, her heart pounding in her chest. He was offering her a home, a place to belong. But could she trust him? Could she trust the Apache? She looked into Nako's eyes, searching for any sign of deceit. But she saw only honesty and kindness. She took a deep breath and made a decision. "Yes," she said. "I'll go with you." Nako smiled. "Good," he said. "We leave soon. We have a long journey ahead of us." He then pointed to the top of the canyon and asked, "Are you ready to begin our journey?" The journey to Nako's village was long and arduous. They traveled through rugged canyons, across scorching plains, and over rocky mountains. Eliza, still weak from her ordeal, struggled to keep up with Nako's pace. He was patient with her, though, always stopping to let her rest and sharing his water and food. He taught her how to find edible plants, how to track animals, and how to protect herself from the sun and the cold. Eliza learned quickly, her survival instincts kicking in. She discovered a strength within herself that she never knew she possessed. She was no longer the helpless, worthless girl Silas had abandoned. She was a survivor. As they traveled, Eliza and Nako began to communicate more easily. He taught her some of his language, and she taught him some of hers. They shared stories about their lives, their families, and their beliefs. Eliza learned that Nako was a skilled warrior and a respected member of his tribe. He was kind, compassionate, and fiercely loyal to his people. He had lost his parents to disease when he was young and had been raised by his grandmother, a wise and respected elder. Eliza, in turn, told Nako about her mother, about her love for books, and about her dreams of becoming a teacher. She confessed her fears and her insecurities, and Nako listened without judgment. One evening, as they sat around a campfire, Nako told Eliza about the Apache way of life. He explained their respect for nature, their reverence for their ancestors, and their commitment to protecting their land. "We are not savages," Nako said, his voice firm. "We are people who love our home and our families. We fight only when we must to defend what is ours." Eliza listened intently, her heart filled with admiration for Nako and his people. She realized that everything she had been taught about the Apache was wrong. They were not the monsters Silas had described. They were human beings just like her. Their journey was not without its dangers. They encountered rattlesnakes, scorpions, and even a mountain lion. Nako always protected Eliza, putting himself between her and the threat. One day, as they were crossing a narrow canyon, a rock slide blocked their path. They were trapped, with no way to go forward or backward. Eliza panicked, but Nako remained calm. He carefully scaled the canyon wall, searching for a way around the rock slide. After several hours, he found a narrow ledge that led to the other side. He helped Eliza across, guiding her step by step. As they reached safety, Eliza threw her arms around Nako, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "You saved my life." Nako smiled and gently pushed her away. "We look after each other," he said. "That is what friends do." Eliza smiled back, her heart filled with warmth. She knew that Nako was more than just a friend. He was her protector, her teacher, and her guide. He was helping her to find her way in a world that had once seemed so cruel and unforgiving. As they continued their journey, their bond deepened, and Eliza knew that she would never forget the kindness and compassion that Nako had shown her. They were nearing the edge of Apache territory when they first saw the riders. 3 men, hard-looking and heavily armed, their faces grim beneath the brims of their dusty hats. They rode with a purpose that sent a shiver of unease down Eliza's spine. Nako stopped, his hand instinctively reaching for his bow. He scanned the riders, his eyes narrowed. "Bounty hunters," he said quietly. "Looking for someone." Eliza's heart pounded in her chest. She knew, with a sickening certainty, that they were looking for her. Silas must have spread a story about her kidnapping, hoping to collect a reward and solidify his claim to her inheritance. "We need to hide," Nako said, pulling Eliza towards a dense thicket of bushes. "They must not see you." They crouched low, hidden from view, as the bounty hunters rode past. Eliza held her breath, her body trembling. She could hear the men talking, their voices rough and menacing. "Heard the girl was taken by Apache," one of them said. "Old Silas is offering a good price for her safe return." "Apache," another replied, "means trouble, but a reward's a reward." The bounty hunters rode on, their voices fading into the distance. Eliza let out a shaky breath, her body weak with relief. "They will be back," Nako said, his voice grim. "Silas wants you badly. We must be careful." They continued their journey, but now they were constantly on guard, watching for any sign of the bounty hunters. Nako taught Eliza how to move silently, how to read the signs of the wilderness, and how to defend herself with a knife. One evening, as they were making camp, they heard the sound of horses approaching. Nako quickly extinguished the fire and pulled Eliza into the shadows. The bounty hunters rode into the clearing, their faces illuminated by the moonlight. They dismounted and began to search the area, their voices growing louder. "She has to be around here somewhere," one of them said. Silas said she couldn't have gotten far. "Maybe the Apache got to her," another replied. "Maybe they're long gone." "We keep searching," the third man said, his voice hard. "Silas is paying us good money. We don't leave until we find her." Eliza and Nako watched in silence as the bounty hunters searched the clearing. They were close, too close. Eliza could see the glint of their weapons in the moonlight. Suddenly, one of the bounty hunters spotted a broken twig on the ground. He bent down to examine it more closely. "Tracks," he said, his voice excited. "Fresh tracks. They're heading that way." The bounty hunters mounted their horses and rode off, following the tracks. Eliza and Nako waited until they were out of sight before emerging from the shadows. "We must go," Nako said, his voice urgent. "They're getting closer. We must reach my village before they catch us." They ran through the darkness, their hearts pounding in their chests. The bounty hunters were closing in, and Eliza knew that their lives were in danger. Silas's greed had put a price on her head, and she didn't know if they could escape. The memory flashed through Eliza's mind, sharp and clear as a shard of glass. She was 12 years old, huddled in the shadows of the parlor, listening to Silas speak with a lawyer. Her mother had only been gone a few months, and the air in the house still felt heavy with grief. "The inheritance is substantial," the lawyer was saying, his voice low and professional. "But as Eliza is a minor, Silas, you'll have control of the funds until she turns 18. Unless—" Silas leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling light. "Unless what?" "Unless something were to happen to her," the lawyer said delicately. "If Eliza were to disappear, or perish, the entire estate would revert to you as the closest living relative." Eliza had gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She didn't understand everything they were saying, but she understood enough. Silas wanted her inheritance. He wanted her gone. She had tried to tell her mother's best friend, Mrs. Henderson, but Silas had intercepted the letter, his face contorted with rage. "You will not speak of this to anyone," he had hissed, his grip tightening on her arm. "Do you understand? No one will believe you. You're just a child." Now, running through the darkness with Nako, the memory was a chilling confirmation of Silas's true nature. It wasn't just about getting rid of a burden. It was about greed, pure and simple. He had planned this all along. She confided in Nako during a brief rest stop, her voice trembling with anger and fear. "He never cared about me," she said. "He just wanted my money." Nako listened patiently, his expression hardening as she spoke. "He is a dangerous man," he said. "He will stop at nothing to get what he wants. He's trying to frame you," Eliza said, her voice rising. "He's telling everyone that the Apache kidnapped me. He wants to start a war." Nako's eyes flashed with anger. "He uses lies to hurt my people," he said. "This cannot be allowed." They sat in silence for a moment, both lost in thought. Eliza knew that they couldn't just run and hide forever. They had to do something to stop Silas, to expose his lies, and to protect Nako's people. "We have to go to the army," Eliza said, her voice firm. "We have to tell them the truth." Nako looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "The army does not trust the Apache," he said. "They will not believe us." "But they have to," Eliza insisted. "I have proof. I know about the inheritance. I know about his plans. If we can convince them, we can stop him." Nako hesitated, weighing the risks. He knew that approaching the army was dangerous, but he also knew that they couldn't let Silas continue to spread his lies and incite violence. "All right," Nako said finally. "We will go to the army. But we must be careful. Silas will be expecting us." They changed their course, heading towards the nearest military outpost. They knew that they were walking into a trap, but they had no other choice. They had to expose Silas's deceit, even if it meant risking their lives. The path ahead would be treacherous, but they were determined to fight for justice, for themselves, and for Nako's people. The military outpost was a cluster of wooden buildings surrounded by a high fence. Soldiers patrolled the perimeter, their rifles glinting in the sun. Eliza and Nako approached cautiously, their hands raised in a sign of peace. A soldier stepped forward, his face wary. "Halt! Who goes there?" "We need to speak to Captain Wheeler," Eliza said, her voice clear and strong. "It's about Silas Carter." The soldier frowned. "Silas Carter? He's been here for days, claiming his niece was kidnapped by Apache. Says he needs our help to rescue her." Eliza's heart sank. Silas had gotten there first. He had already poisoned the well. "That's a lie," Eliza said, her voice rising. Silas is lying. He abandoned me in the desert. He wants my inheritance. He's trying to frame the Apache. The soldier looked skeptical. And why should we believe you? Because it's the truth, Eliza said, her eyes flashing with anger. Ask him about my mother's will. Ask him about the lawyer. He can't hide the truth. The soldier hesitated, then nodded. Wait here, he said. I'll fetch Captain Wheeler. Eliza and Nako waited anxiously as the soldier disappeared into the outpost. A few minutes later, Captain Wheeler emerged, a tall, stern-looking man with a weathered face. What's this about Silas Carter? He asked, his voice gruff. He's lying, Captain, Eliza said, stepping forward. He abandoned me in the desert. He wants my inheritance. He's trying to start a war with the Apache. Silas appeared behind Captain Wheeler, his face pale with shock. Eliza, what are you doing here? These Apache have brainwashed you. Don't listen to him, Captain, Eliza pleaded. He's the one who's lying. Ask him about the will. Ask him about his conversation with the lawyer after my mother died. He can't deny it. Captain Wheeler turned to Silas, his eyes narrowed. Is this true, Carter? Silas stammered, his face turning red. It's a misunderstanding. Eliza is confused. She's been through a lot. Tell him the truth, Silas, Eliza said, her voice ringing with conviction. Tell him about the inheritance. Tell him about your plans. Silas glared at Eliza, his eyes filled with hatred. You little traitor, he hissed. You'll regret this. Captain Wheeler stepped forward, his voice booming. Enough. Carter, I'm placing you under arrest for fraud and attempted incitement of violence. Silas's face crumbled. He knew he was defeated. The soldiers grabbed him, and he was dragged away, kicking and screaming. Captain Wheeler turned to Eliza, his expression softening slightly. I'm sorry for doubting you, Miss Carter, he said. It seems we were misled. Thank you for telling us the truth. Eliza nodded, her body trembling with relief. She had done it. She had exposed Silas's lies. She had protected Nako and his people. But as she looked at Captain Wheeler, she knew that her journey was far from over. She still had to decide what to do with her life. She couldn't go back to the way things were before. She had changed too much. What will you do now, Miss Carter? Captain Wheeler asked. Eliza took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the horizon. I don't know, Captain, she said, but I know I can't go back. I have to find my own path. She then turned to Nako and asked, Are you ready to start a new life? Nako looked at Eliza, his eyes filled with understanding. Where will you go? He asked softly. Eliza hesitated. She had no family, no home, and no clear idea of what she wanted to do with her life. But she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't go back to being the person she was before. She had been through too much, seen too much, learned too much. I don't know, she said, her voice barely a whisper. But I can't stay here. I can't live under Silas's shadow anymore. I have to find my own way. Captain Wheeler stepped forward, his expression thoughtful. Miss Carter, he said, I admire your courage and your determination. If you're looking for a place to start over, I might have an offer for you. Eliza looked at him, her eyebrows raised in surprise. What do you mean, Captain? This outpost is more than just a military base, Captain Wheeler explained. It's also a community. We have families, farmers, teachers, and tradesmen. We're always looking for good people to join us. He paused, his eyes scanning Eliza's face. You're smart, resourceful, and brave. I think you'd be a valuable asset to our community. We could use someone to help with the children's education. I heard you mention you dreamed of becoming a teacher. Eliza's heart skipped a beat. A chance to teach. It was everything she had ever wanted. What about Nako? Eliza asked, glancing at the Apache warrior. Would he be welcome too? Captain Wheeler smiled. We welcome all who come in peace, he said. We have a diverse group of people here. We believe in working together, regardless of our backgrounds. Nako nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. I'm honored by your offer, Captain, he said. I will do what I can to help your community. Eliza looked at Captain Wheeler, then at Nako, then back at the military outpost. It wasn't the life she had imagined for herself, but it was a chance to start over, to make a difference, to be someone other than the worthless girl Silas had always claimed she was. She took a deep breath and made her decision. "I'll do it, Captain," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I'll join your community, and I'll do my best to make it a better place." Captain Wheeler smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "Welcome aboard, Miss Carter," he said. "I think you'll fit right in." Eliza smiled back, her heart filled with hope. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that she was finally in control of her own destiny. She was leaving her past behind, rejecting Silas's control, and embracing a new path, a path filled with possibilities. As she and Nako followed Captain Wheeler into the outpost, she knew that she was finally home, or at least on her way to making a new one. Life at the military outpost was busy and challenging, but Eliza thrived in the supportive environment. Captain Wheeler proved to be a kind and fair leader, and the other members of the community welcomed her with open arms. She was given a small room in one of the buildings, and she quickly set about making it her own. Eliza and Nako worked together, helping to build bridges between the different groups of people at the outpost. They showed the community that people from different backgrounds could live together in peace and harmony. Eliza also learned new skills. She learned how to ride a horse, how to shoot a rifle, and how to defend herself in a fight. She became stronger and more confident, both physically and emotionally. She spent time with the women of the community, learning how to cook, sew, and care for the sick. She discovered a talent for herbal medicine, using her knowledge of plants to heal the injured and comfort the ill. One day, Captain Wheeler approached Eliza, his eyes filled with pride. "You've made a real difference here, Eliza," he said. "You've brought our community together. You've shown us the importance of education and understanding. I don't know what we would have done without you." Eliza smiled, her heart filled with gratitude. She had finally found a place where she belonged, a place where she was valued, and a place where she could make a difference. She looked around at the community, at the children learning, the farmers working, and the soldiers protecting. She saw a diverse group of people, united by a common purpose, to build a better future for themselves and their families. She knew that life at the outpost wouldn't always be easy. There would be challenges and setbacks, but she was ready to face them. She had found her strength, her purpose, and her community. She was no longer the worthless girl Silas had abandoned. She was Eliza Carter, a teacher, a healer, a friend, and a member of a community that welcomed her with open arms. The once skinny and sad girl was finally beginning to bloom in her new community. She even made a new best friend named Beth, who was the same age as Eliza. As the sun set over the desert, casting a golden glow on the outpost, Eliza felt a sense of peace and contentment wash over her. She was home, she was safe, and she was finally free. She was ready to finally be happy. Months passed. Eliza stood on the edge of the outpost, watching the sunset paint the sky in vibrant hues of orange, pink, and purple. Beth, her best friend, stood beside her, sharing stories and laughter. The desert air was cool and crisp, a welcome change from the scorching heat of the summer. She thought about her journey, from the moment Silas had abandoned her to now, standing strong and confident in her new home. She remembered the fear, the hunger, and the loneliness. She remembered the storm, the darkness, and the despair. But she also remembered the kindness of Nako, the warmth of the fire in his cave, and the growing bond between them. She had faced challenges she never thought she could overcome. She had survived a harsh desert, evaded bounty hunters, and confronted a cruel and deceitful uncle. She had discovered a strength within herself that she never knew existed. She had learned to ride a horse, shoot a rifle, and defend herself. She had learned to cook, sew, and care for the sick. She had learned to speak Apache, to track animals, and to find edible plants in the desert. But more importantly, she had learned about herself. She had learned that she was resilient, independent, and capable. She had learned that she was not worthless, as Silas had always claimed. She was valuable, she was loved, and she was making a difference in the world. She thought about her mother, about the stories of strong women that she had told her. She realized that she was now one of those women. She had faced hardship with courage and determination, and she had emerged stronger and more confident. She had found her purpose in life: to teach, to heal, and to help others. She was using her skills and talents to make the world a better place, one child, one patient, one friend at a time. She had also learned the importance of community. She had found a home among a diverse group of people who welcomed her with open arms. She had learned that people from different backgrounds could live together in peace and harmony, working together to build a better future. She looked at Nako, who was talking with Captain Wheeler. His face lit up with a smile. She was grateful for his friendship, his guidance, and his unwavering support. He had shown her the true meaning of kindness and compassion. He had helped her to see the world in a new light. She knew that she would never forget her journey. It had been a difficult and painful experience, but it had also been transformative. It had taught her valuable lessons about life, about herself, and about the importance of human connection. She was no longer the scared and helpless girl who had been abandoned in the desert. She was Eliza Carter, a strong, independent, and capable woman who had found her place in the world. She was finally free. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared below the horizon, Eliza took a deep breath, her heart filled with gratitude. She was home, she was safe, and she was finally happy. Her long journey had come to an end, but her new life was just beginning. She smiled and continued talking with Beth, ready for whatever adventures lay ahead. Years later, the sun shone brightly on the bustling military outpost. Children's laughter filled the air as they ran and played, their voices echoing across the dusty grounds. The outpost had grown into a thriving community, a testament to the hard work and dedication of its residents. In a small classroom, Eliza stood before a group of eager students, her face radiant with joy. She was teaching them about history, about geography, and about the importance of kindness and understanding. She told them stories of strong women, of brave warriors, and of people who had overcome adversity to achieve their dreams. She had become a beloved teacher, inspiring her students to learn, to grow, and to make a difference in the world. She had also become a skilled healer, using her knowledge of herbal medicine to care for the sick and injured. Outside the classroom, Nako worked alongside the other farmers, tending to the crops and sharing his knowledge of the land. He had become a respected member of the community, admired for his wisdom, his strength, and his unwavering commitment to peace. He often visited the classroom, sharing stories of his people and teaching the children about the Apache way of life. He helped them to understand the importance of respecting nature, of honoring their ancestors, and of living in harmony with the world around them. Eliza and Nako had become leaders in the community, working together to build bridges between different cultures and to promote understanding and acceptance. They had shown the world that people from different backgrounds could live together in peace and harmony, united by a common purpose: to create a better future for all. One day, a group of travelers arrived at the outpost, weary and worn from their long journey. They had heard stories of the thriving community and had come seeking refuge and a new beginning. Eliza and Nako welcomed them with open arms, offering them food, shelter, and a place to belong. They showed them the true meaning of kindness and compassion, and they inspired them to embrace the values of the community. As the travelers settled into their new home, Eliza looked around at the bustling outpost, her heart filled with gratitude. She had come a long way from the scared and helpless girl who had been abandoned in the desert. She had found her strength, her purpose, and her community. She had created a life filled with love, joy, and meaning. She smiled, her eyes filled with hope as she looked confidently towards the future. She knew that there would be challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them. She had learned that anything was possible with courage, determination, and the support of a loving community. The camera pans out, showing Eliza standing tall and proud, surrounded by her students, her friends, and her community. She was finally home. She was finally free, and she was finally happy. The once worthless girl was now a pillar of strength for all those around her. The end.